Okay, I'm Ken Bailey. I'm the speaker for this evening, and Tim just gave me the thumbs up and said, let's go so we can get on time for the drawing. So I'll try to get this over with quick, and we'll go back to conversation with some great people. So I got a call at the last minute, and so the talk is the first time I've done this talk, so just to preface, I've got cheat sheets, so if I miss something, we'll get it at the end. Just let me run through, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end, if that's okay with everyone. And so we'll go from there. We can go back to any slide. So I just want to preface that with that. So Ken Bailey, been caving for a long time. So this is a great area to cave. And we're going to talk about the history of the Kentucky Karst Conservancy and how that project got going. And a lot of my part in it. I got to do a lot of cool stuff with a lot of cool people. So Jeannie, first slide. As you can see, how local cavers did a really cool thing. So, and that's what happened. So anyway, if you've been to Big Bat Cave, really quick, if you're playing along, the entire phrase, Big Bat Cave, is the drinking phrase. So if you're playing, no word tonight, it's a phrase. So feel free to play along. Big Bat or Cave or Bat Cave will not be enough. Pay attention. So anyway, how this entrance got found is there was a natural entrance and everybody went in. The guys all came back from Southeast Asia in the 60s and they were all going on the GI Bill and they started going to the natural entrance. Well, they eventually mapped their way over to this sinkhole at the end. It's where we've got the mushroom entrance on Big Bat Cave. And so this is all 1970. Angelo, if you're here, thank you for the photos. Anyway, Angelo George was the photographer on this, and we still talk and hang out. Anyway, what they did is they made a radio locator, mapped over to the sinkhole, verified it with this homemade radio thing, and then dug down to the sinkhole, put this pipe in it, and you can see how high the pipe is off the ground. It was level with the ground, flood came in, and then the pipe was high up. So now it had a big piece of concrete around it and looked like a giant mushroom. That's why it's called the mushroom entrance. There's no mushrooms there. There could be some days, but as a whole, it has nothing to do with mushrooms. It just looked really bad. We cut it off, we fixed the door. It will not cut your fingers off anymore. It's a great solid thing to do now. So anyway, I owe a ton to those guys. J-Pat, the guy on the mushroom entrance, was the guy that bought the sinkhole. So he secured it for himself and was always quite generous with letting us go in the cave. So on to the next thing.
Getting warmer.
So play the thing. It's got a video. So thank you. So this is J-Pat. This was our last trip together in Big Bat. Unfortunately, he has got Alzheimer's now, and we just kind of hang out, but the stories aren't as good as they used to be. So, but I still check on him, and he's not losing weight. He's good. So, anyway, he and I were on the board at the Louisville Grotto together, and he was the old guy, and then I was a new grandparent, so we didn't stay for the after party. We met before and ate dinner together before the meetings because we were the two old guys. Well, we turned out to be pretty good friends. It was a great way to be friends, breaking bread together as we all did tonight. It's a great way. And so we started talking about what's the plan for this cave. You're getting older, and we're all getting older, and what are you going to do with this cave? He goes, well, I'm leaving it to my kids. Okay, are they going to sell it? You know, he goes, I don't care what they do. And so, you know, this was mine, and this is what I did. I said, well, let's try to figure out a way to where we can keep cavers going into it forever. And so he said, okay. I said, well, I'll look around, see if I can get some money. Did not go well at all. And we'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, then we kind of came up, onto the next slide. Did it move? There we go. So we kind of came up, I said I would buy it. I had just secured a loan for a garage, and I said, no problem, I've got the money, I'll get it. And we went back and forth, and I said, well, what if we try to do a nonprofit and we'll put it in the hands of everyone, and then instead of it's always being in one person's hands. And he said, great. So I made a logo and started looking for how to get a cave conservancy going. And so what I learned is that I was suddenly a contrarian, going against the grain of everything, and I had to stick by my guns and think that I was right, because it was a really tough road. So we started figuring it out. Now, the beauty of that is JPAT said, I will do owner finance if you do a nonprofit. So that took the financial liability off me, which was a great relief to me and my family. So on to the next one. So that's kind of where we got there. So this is where we went from there. And you can read that. Right? So, as a contrarian, you have to be absolutely right and you have to work like crazy. And then you're standing here 12 years later. But until then, so like I said, JPAT was phenomenal, and he was just 100% behind making sure everybody here can get in this cave. So on to the next slide, Jeannie. So it starts with really boring stuff, memorandums to get a 501(c). Oh my God. So anyway, on to the next thing. This is just a picture from Big Bat to cleanse your eyes of all that reading. No real reason. Okay. More reading. So, sorry. Didn't mean to drop you so hard so fast. So anyway, more stuff about what you stand for and what you're going to get done. We're not going to pause to read. It's used to be on the internet somewhere. Next slide. So one of the things that, when I found out that this was going to be from the book, I pulled around. And you will succeed. Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. And then, of course, Google has a whole thing about encouragement, perseverance, what the book really should mean. And I think I was like, oh my gosh, what a great metaphor. I'm so glad to be here. And so this is the moment that I want to, if you've ever been on the board for the KKC, make sure somebody knows who you, stand up so people can see who you are. Anybody here on the board? Yeah. Yeah. If you've ever been on the board in the past, please stand up. There are three. The way I'm a snake oil salesman. I have no clue on how to run a 501(c). No clue whatsoever. All I know is how to convince people that caves are good for them, and that's an accidental skill. So what we did is, the way I see it is that we have three levels of people in Big Bat. There are owners, and those are lifetime members. They get a key to the cave. They come and go as they please. There are tenants, and those are people that are yearly. They just pay their $15. They belong for the year. And then there are tourists, people that come with any of those people, check out the cave, and go. And I want to make sure every one of them has a great time. They're all valued, and they tell other people. They only need to tell two people that care, and we'll change it. It'll keep growing. It doesn't need to be everything. It just needs to be a little at a time. So that's how we guarantee this. So, should I take off my hat? I just love the metaphor of this. So, and hang on. So, I got it from a magic store. I had to play with it. That had no bearing on anything. I just went to a magic store. I got the hat. Oh, thank you. Sorry, that was for me, but thanks for appreciating my stupidity. So, okay, on to the next thing. Okay, so now we're going to do real sciencey. We're going to science the crap out of this thing. So, why is Big Bat here? And so this is the geologic map of Kentucky. So this is going to show the structure. This is the Highland Rim, right here. This is the Jasmine Dome, and we're going to talk about how that got made in a minute. But just know that this uplift on this edge here is where water gets in. We got uplift, and we got a lot of caves forming there. So for now, that's where we're starting. On to the next one, Jeannie. The coal swamps are over there. So this is James Paler and Randy Paler and James Quinlan's or James Curran's map. Is Jim here? Did Jim Curran's come? Oh well, they're great geologists. They were great for Kentucky. They were great for the NSS. They were just great for caving, everything. Great guys. But if you notice, the karst sections of the state reflect that structure. So this is the coal fields here, Younger Rock, Pennsylvania. But anyway, on to the next thing. So here we are on how we got this state. So 500 million years ago, pancake, layer cake geology, the oceans just keep laying down this thick limestone. Africa crams into us. We start building the Cumberland Plateau over here. Here's that upwarp, that dome I was talking about, the Jasmine Dome. Here's that basin where the coal fields are. And here's where we're about to get some great caves. Erosion comes along, it's cutting it off as fast. Here's it's filling in down here, so you got a hill and basin thing. Then we get the rivers starting to cut some relief. Here we've got the Cumberland Plateau well developed, the bluegrass region, and then here we are where our caves are being made like crazy. So, on to the next thing, Jeannie. So, strike and dip are crucial. I had a request for phreatic and vadose cave passages, so we're going to take a second. And this cave bed is filled with both. So strike is the parallel along that escarpment, that uplift, and then your dip is dipping downhill. That one's an easy one. So a lot of our passages are either on the strike or the dip, and they're either and I'll show you what they're made out of. But anyway, the water can get in down here, and the best thing about caves is it needs flowing water, and when you're running water downhill, it goes a lot better. So anyway, on to the next slide, Jeannie. So this is a vadose canyon. This would be going down the dip. Your dip makes canyon passages. So on to the next one. This is your phreatic tube. See how you've got this wonderful tube shape there, an oval, and that's going to be along your strike. So, Jeannie, back up there. So anyway, it's kind of cool. You can see the proto-cave right there, where it was kind of the first crack that got in there and started making a cave. But you can see, like I say, it went in, and they're kind of cool because they don't have to obey gravity. They can do whatever they want, while the canyons have to obey gravity. So anyway, on to the next one, Jeannie. So here we are looking at the geology of the escarpment. This is the Moortown Formation. Here's our cave over here. Two of the entrances are Big Bat and one's Carmen Cave. And then this is the Moortown Formation, this huge sandstone ridge. And I'm not sure where it came from, but I'm hoping that it was a river passage, but it's certainly a conduit for bringing water down across here. And caves love crap loads of water. So, and then we have the two fault zones on both sides. So we're going to have a lot of cracks, which is going to give a great place for the water to get in. So on to the next thing. So here we are looking a close-up of that same thing. Here's our Moortown Formation. Here's our cave. Now, I find it fascinating. If you notice, most of the cave entrances are along the contact between the older and the younger rock, except our cave. It's out here in the middle of this field. So it's kind of just it's kind of cool, and it's also a pretty special place. But if you look, all these passages are trending along the strike, and these are going along the dip. So if you're standing in a canyon, you're probably going northeast to southwest, and if you're in a tube, you're probably the exact 90 degrees over. I can't do compass directions that quick in my head. I can barely do left and right. Okay, on to the next one, Jeannie. So here's just a photograph of the same thing with the device for people that get photographs better than they get maps. Just a second way of presenting it. So if you get photos better, here you go. On to the next thing. So here's just kind of a regional area. Of course, there's much better maps by guys that have come after me. And that was one of the best compliments I got today, was how we have managed to keep the data open and available for anybody that comes up and wants to work on the project. And gosh, what a great compliment. I mean, just what a great compliment. So anyway, that project is still going. It was 13 and a half miles when we started this project. It's 16 plus miles now. So by keeping it open, it keeps exploration open. Anybody can start a project and know they're not going to get kicked out. They've got access. You can make a long-term commitment, and we're going to commit back. So, Jeannie, on. So, yeah, just a close-up. You can see we're here. Here's the natural entrance, and, of course, that's a cool trip there. I hate going that way. In fact, I'm never going to go that way again. I'm tired. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. On to the next one. So this is a geologic map, so you can look at the age of the rocks. And here's Chris's cave over here. I love how you can see really easily how it cuts across these drains. So obviously this erosional stuff has either happened after the cave was formed or sometime a part of the cave that's collapsed. I don't have all the time in the world. I wish I did. I know all these things. I have all the questions. But Jeannie, next one. So here we are. And this is, again, I'm going to shout out to Angelo George. He and I were looking at all these sinkholes, and I find it fascinating that the hypothesis is that these are the sinkholes that are the conduits that are feeding this cave. Tomorrow, that cave is going to be full of water, absolutely full. And so you can see this looks like a solution channel that went to there. That could have been an ancient passage that's collapsed, was part of the cave. But anyway, these sinkholes down here are filling it. Next one, Jeannie. I find this one fascinating too. Oh, well, we'll look at the other end later. But you can see how these are conduits into here. Here's the river over here, if you've ever gotten to go down to the river. And anyway, it's just something I'm looking at that's kind of cool. I don't have any, I got just all questions. If somebody's got answers, we'll come find me at the fire. So on to the next one, Jeannie. So of course, white nose came to the cave under my watch. And I really love this thing. In the Origin of Species, the whole quote is about the survival of the fittest, but in the harshest environments, it's survival of the most cooperative. And you can see that the tricolor, the pipistrelle, is hanging with the little browns. And that has never happened before. They split this passage up. They split it up based on temperature and humidity. And they never get in each other's way. And here we are as the world is crashing in. And they're surviving and without fungus because they're cooperating. It was really just nothing, it's never been seen before. This was the first time we'd ever documented it. It was really a profound moment. So on to the next one. Here's next year. It was over. We went from 990 bats to 14 over 5 years. It was, I'm only showing one picture. It was a horrible thing. I don't look at the other pictures, and 900 things that you once cared about dying in front of you slowly was a sucky thing to do. I don't want to do that again. So on to the next one. Price and I are still friends. We just did a bat survey over at Frenchman. So if anybody went there, we did a bat survey. We're still watching those bats. This is another slide that I thought was going to be so cool, and it's another sucky little story I don't want to tell. Part of our thing was to train cavers and to be an access to training. We're not a social organization, but we are a resource for training and a resource for cave access and science. And Jeff Martin told me about a grant that they were giving away at TAG. Anybody's ever been to TAG? Thank you for the money. And then when we got the grant, he gave us a huge discount at Intermountain. And I don't know how many know, but he died the other day. So, yeah. So, he fell off a ladder at work, and, So this program would not be there had it not been for that one person that said, hey, I can help. I think you're worth it. And, I mean, if everybody that's worked on anybody that's been on the vertical program, stick your hand up or something. That would be you, Tim. Adam. Yeah. Anyway, you can see the enthusiasm, but anyway, on to the next one. Like I said, there was another slide that I thought wouldn't suck. Anyway, level 1 in Louisville let us have classes there. They were just phenomenal on how they treated us. So you can see the program started with an indoor practice where you got on rope. Jeannie, the next one. Classroom, and then we would rappel off their buildings or the flood wall downtown or whatever we could find that was high. It didn't matter to us, and nobody really knew what we were doing but until the end, and then they'd come out and start yelling. So it was always worked out pretty cool. I've talked some landowners off the ledge. And I don't mean him off that. I mean, just calm down. We'll leave. Anyway, on to the next one, Jeannie. I missed this part. We would all eat together at the thing. So we've been doing, the class has been here. The classroom class has been here. And so I'm trying to push to get us a group meal again. I really think that's a time to talk and find out who each other are and things like that. So I missed that part. Anyway, on to the next one. So then the following day, we have a really cool in-cave classroom and class, so everybody rehearses. Like I say, Jeff was able to, we got all the gear, so if you don't have vertical gear, you can come, use gear, see what you like. what you don't like before you blow a bunch of money going down the wrong direction that's wrong for you. And there are so many different picks, there's always one that's right, but you don't know until things. So this was a great way for people to try stuff on and really get their feet wet and decide if it was for them or not. I mean, I've had a guy once that just wanted to go in there because he was a Civil War buff, and he had read in a journal that they had all gone over to Frenchman's and looked in. He came, he went down there, he hated every minute of it, got in the car, left, and we talk on the phone, but he has not been in a cave since. We have talked about it, but he's not shown up. So on to the next one. So anyway, it ends, of course, you've got to do real world rappels, real world climb outs, real world changeovers. You will know how to self-rescue by the end of the class. And so you can, and the hope is to, you're not going to rig or anything like that, but you're going to know what an unsafe rig looks like. So anyway, it's just been a great way to help people in this area get into it without breaking their bank. So I'm really proud of that program. I'm proud of everybody that's done all the work on it. They show up every time and work tirelessly, and it just works. It's so cool. On to the next thing. So yeah, it comes with it. We try to get a group picture every time. They're all happy now that we're done with them. So yeah, and all those people, there's I still cave with most of them. So anyway, on to the next one. Yeah. So this was a dumb idea. This was another contrarian idea where the contrarian and me met another contrarian. So Ben here, I worked at a government agency, and Ben was one of our contractors. He was a surveyor. And so Ben, without thinking it through, which I love, that's a great way to start things, bought this $50,000 LiDAR scanner before anybody knew what a LiDAR scanner was. He was the first guy to own one. And so he was like, I've got a $50,000 piece of equipment in the corner, and I don't know what to do with it. And I said, I do. I know exactly what to do with it. And so here we are with a laptop. I don't know what we were thinking. We had no idea. This went on to be my future son-in-law, and this was a kid that just showed up in my office. A professor said, you should go meet this guy, Ken. And he showed up, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I got a plan. Come on, let's go do this. And so anyway, they just showed up. And so anyway, we wound up playing with this scanner. Jeannie, on to the next one. And this was our first scan. If you've been to the first room out through the natural entrance, you can see we scanned too much here and not enough here. This is the volcanoes here. And so this was our first try. On to the next one, Jeannie. Here's a oblique of that. We started trying to figure out how to get images of it all and put it together. You can see some people's shadows back in there. We didn't know how to get out of it. On to the next thing. Jeannie, I like this. This is that same passage. And this is just a little helictite about the size of a thumbnail. But I just like how nature uses the same shapes no matter what the size is. It's just, if it's a good idea, nature just keeps using it. There's no real reason other than me liking it. So, sorry. There'll be a lot of me amusing myself. Not at your expense, though. So on to the next one, Jeannie. So here's the volcanoes. This is a photograph. Dave Black, who's a great cave photographer, took a really good shot. On to the next one, Jeannie. And then here it is scanned. So you can see this was done in pitch black. We couldn't carry enough batteries to light the cave. So what we started figuring out here is that the scanner collects an X, Y, and Z. So it's got three numbers that tell it where it is in space. And because we didn't have an RGB, a red, blue, or green, we started, it would collect the reflective indices. How reflective was the material it was hitting? And so we started catching that and figuring out how to get some color, some structure. You can see some scallops back in here, a couple here. They're kind of cool. They're really huge. And then, of course, all of the break lines in the rock and flat ceiling. So anyway, we were just starting to see cool stuff. Next one, Jeannie. So here's a profile of the natural entrance. And just to test everybody, this is a complex passage. So we are looking at an abandoned phreatic tube. And then here's the canyon where the bottom dropped out of the water table. So that just seems like a waterfall when you climb in it. But with the LiDAR, you're able to take a look and see how things are put together. It's a really cool way to look at stuff. And of course, you can see it heading on down to the rest of the cave. So on to the next one, Jeannie. Here it is in photograph. There, you can see here's your phreatic abandoned tube, and then here's your keyhole slot where it turned into a canyon. and took off down the hole. And I just always looked at it as kind of a cool waterfall to climb down. But after seeing it projected that way, I looked at it differently from then on. So anyway, Jeannie, next one. So that's a video. So this was our first try at this. So we started looking at it as a way to get through the cave, a bat's view of the cave, I guess. And this was just me and Ben and a couple of volunteers just trying to make something out of stuff that didn't exist. So the next thing that happened is Ben and I presented this at a GIS conference, and now Ben has this gigantic LiDAR department, and they make millions of dollars a year. They travel all over the world. His department has just blown up. It was just the greatest thing for them. I get to use the place like a mad scientist in case I come up with another idea. They don't run me off. So it's been a great experience. Jeannie, next slide. So nothing screws up my friends more than success. So once Ben got successful, he didn't want to come back to Big Bad. One day a year. And so here I am, like I said, you know, you got a friend, they get a new girlfriend or boyfriend, they don't have time to hang out. Their life is successful. They never come caving. Success just ruins all my caver buddies. So I just said, what if I had a scanner? What if I got rid of, Ben has abandoned me. I've got some data. What if we had a scanner? So that's when I came up with this idea. So I could rent a scanner for $500 for one day, but I could get it for the weekend as a one-day rate. Well, I figured out if we ran it 48 hours, that's like 6 days' work in one weekend. So I didn't say it was a good plan, and I can assure you the outcome was phenomenal and horrible. On to the next slide. So this was Kevin. Kevin was absolutely right to be terrified. This was brand new. LiDAR rental was brand new. No one had rented this machine before. It was in pristine condition. The box alone told on me. I was spray painted the box and held it out the window trying to get it to dry before we got back to turn it in. It was, I got calls for months from different people in the organization. Did you drop this? Did you? And so we ran the crap out of this machine. And Kevin and I still are friends, but we don't rent. Kevin also told all of his rental buddies what happened. So we had to go to Indianapolis. They doubled the price and then added $200 to it. So it was $1,200 to rent it the following year, which meant I had to write even more grants to get even more money. But that was easier with the success of the first year. So Jeannie, onto the next slide. So this is how it works. So Terry Brown, she's with the Cave Conservancies, Virginia. She's with the Virginia Conservancies. Terry read my $1,200 grant and thought this was an awesome idea. I will bring the money out there. And she convinced them to give me the money, and she showed up to help with the work. So good heavens, what great, cavers are freaking awesome. And so and this kid here, he listened to me talk in Maryland at the Geological Society of America, and he followed me home and started LiDARing. Yeah, a couple of kids did. Well, nobody at those things say, come, I will give you a line on your resume. They just say, here's my spiel, and that's got a checkbox on my grant or whatever I'm working on. I can take that back to the office. None of them said, hey, yeah, sure, come on. I'll give you the data. Whatever you collect, you can use. You know, and so these kids followed me home. So it was a hell of a thing. Anyway, the way it works is you have this scanner, and it spins around 360, but it also has a data collector spinning 360. So you got two 360s collecting a sphere of data. And then you have to have these stations, these anchors, and you have to have 3 behind you and 3 in front of you. And then you leapfrog them. So the ones in the front become the ones in the back. And you have to have 3 so it'll triangulate. When you connect the data, the point clouds, if you only have 2, it'll hinge. You can't get a good thing. So you have to have 3. 4's better. And I also broke one of Ben's on the earlier project. So these I made out of styrofoam out of the craft store. I glued a magnet so you could stick a screw in the wall and hang it from the magnet, or I put them on sticks, dowel rods, and you can just jam them in the mud. I don't care how you get them, just don't let them move. And it worked really well, and it was a great way. So I was able to, every time I rented stuff, I borrowed Ben's tripod from QK4 since we'd already trashed it, and I was able to kind of mitigate the problems with the rental house. So on to the next one. Anyway, Terry I can't say enough nice. As you can see, the balls are important. I learned to blue tape up the scanner so it didn't have fingerprints. And at 48 hours is a long time because you work 4, you try to get some sleep, you come back, you know. This girl I met on the Appalachian Trail and she followed me home, did it, yeah. No, never been in a cave before. Yeah, no clue whatsoever. She's like, yeah, I'll go first. Okay, you're in. So anyway, it's just amazing. I still don't know, I just know about her trail name. I don't even really know her real name. So, anyway, on to the next slide, Jeannie. So again, just more of this. Like I say, you can see where you've got to have the anchors in front, carrying anchors. You know, you've got to come and get away. They're watching the scanner down there. You got to get out of the shot so your body's not in the scan. And it's rinse and repeat once you get it going. And I was amazed at how much I get cold chills every time I think about how much everybody that came and volunteered committed to this project and what they accomplished. Just no reason other than accomplishing the unknown. I mean, I remember giving a talk once and a girl came up and said, my professor said it couldn't be done. And I was like, I wish he told me before we started. I would have never done this. I mean, just again, being a contrarian, saying, you know, just not listening to it, being sure you're right, and then being willing to do the work. It will pull off some pretty silly shit. And that's kind of cool in a cave. And, you know, the more you pull off this shit in the cave, the more caves you get into, which is, again, kind of the snake oil part of the project here. So anyway, on to the next one. So these are the books. You keep a book, so you keep track of the scans, you keep track of the balls. Here's the scanner. Everybody's book, everybody that came back that kept book was entirely different. There was no standardization, but it was clear enough to figure out what we were doing. And so these are my treasures. I kept all of the books, and everybody has got a different, you know, they were there for 4 hours, and so there's tons of names in it, everybody's names in it, when they were in the cave. It tells me the story of that project over, and we did this for 3 or 4 years, and then COVID hit. Just if anybody's listening that says, hey, this sounds like a cool thing, we currently have 2 grants sitting on the shelf that COVID kept us from spending. So come find me at the fire if you're interested in helping me spend that money. I've got ideas. So next one, Jeannie. So it came with a certificate suitable for framing. So I don't know if anyone framed it, but it was kind of cool. Ben put together a class for the thing. So you would come and he would teach you how to use the scanner. So if you wanted to come extra, then you could get there early, learn to use the scanner. It would be, it counted as continuing education points. You got it done through the Kentucky survey or Kentucky, or it's a survey thing. I don't know. He got it done, but you could get continuing CEUs, Kentucky education credits. So anyway, it was a really cool thing. So again, another line on your resume. That was really what made me do this. Is I was a poor kid in college, so I could never take a co-op to get that leap, to network and do that. So what I wanted to do was make a project where kids could come for a weekend, get something on their resume that gave them that thing that got them in the door. And LiDAR was a technology that would have done it then. And so by looking at what wasn't done for me, I was a contrarian again and said, this is what I'm going to do. And so I have given so many. I get phone calls from all over the country from kids that have been on this project saying, can I use this? Will you talk to this guy? And so it's always just makes me so proud when somebody still values that project and it's still helping our career. I mean, caving's great, but we all have to eat. And having a young person do better means they got more. Maybe they could become a lifetime member as they remember me. So anyway, on to the next one, Jeannie. So that's a video. So this is what happens once we got the data and started building internal knowledge. So we weren't with the thing. You can see our video has come up in quality, our data collection has come up in quality, our understanding of the grayscale and the reflective indices, and there's the hot spots are missing. You can see the growth that came from when the technology was brand new, and it was just a couple of guys just really in the wilderness. And now you can see with you know this institutional knowledge how this thing has really started to grow. So really, that girl, the girl that did that's getting her PhD. She got a free ride. I mean, and she deserves it. So anyway, on to the next one. Next slide, Jeannie. Okay. So anyway, I promised to keep this short and sweet. They said last year it went on for 80 minutes, and I said 35 or 40. So I'm not sure. I'm at 35 right now. Okay. So anyway, yes. So right there's fine, Jeannie. Let's talk money. Because, you know, this thing runs on money. And I'm not asking for anything. Let's start with the cave is paid for. Cave was paid for. $15,000. JPAT financed it for what he gave for it in 1970. He sold it to us because we cared as much as he did. And so we raised it again, the snake oil salesman, we raised it by selling keys to the cave. You could buy a key, and you have access to the cave forever. If you are, or you can become a member of it, and you can borrow anybody's key that'll lend it to you. And so you always have access to the cave. You know, you only have to have one person on the group that belongs to the conservancy, and a student at a $7. I've had kids from U of L chip in $1 a piece in my driveway to get the $7 for one guy to join and take off with the key. You know, I mean, but they got to cave all day. And the guys that aren't cavers are like looking at the guy that is like, what kind of world is this? You pull up in a guy's driveway and then we're in a cave? So, you know, like I said, it's just, the goal is to get people in the cave. And we chunked away at it I set the first key price at $250 because the payment was a little like $190 a month, and that gave $50 or $60 operating capital so if I sold one key a month. So that was enough to keep the doors open, and so we did that. But you know, it worked out wonderfully. I mean, like I said, JPAT financed us, and we just paid him every month, and he 1% interest. I mean, the guy was he's the reason this thing happened. Is he saw it a long time ago, dug in his pocket, and then he made it happen. So anyway, like I said, money's always important. I think keys are more expensive now. You miss the entry-level rate, but, you know, I'm sure, you know. But to own a key to a cave is a cool thing. You come and go as you please, and you take whoever you want. There are forms. You should fill out waivers to protect yourself, please, but you don't have to pay for them. On to the next one, Jeannie. So just to say goodbye to our phreatic passage, you know, you can still see the oval in there, but you can see it turning into a canyon up here, and it's a flood dome actually. So really a cool place in the cave. If anybody's been to that waterfall, I know we're getting rained out tomorrow, so if I've inspired you to go, you can't go. Sorry, you remember those sinkholes we alluded to about midway? Yeah, they're going to screw you. That's just that. On to the next one, Jeannie. So these are the people that were corporations that thought we weren't idiots. QK Engineering, Building Point, that was Kevin that rented me the thing. They were bought by Precision, and now Precision's bought by that company that charged us $1,200. So I'm back to where we started with the most expensive rental in the world, but they will rent to me. So Copperhead has done all the bat surveys out there, and the CNC Portables charged us for the first 48-hour thing, so we'd have outhouses so we didn't mess up the farmer's field. But after they found out what they were doing, they just showed up and dropped them off. Never charged us again. They're like, we just don't understand what you're doing, but thanks for coming out to our county and doing something cool. And on to the next one, Jeannie. So these are the grottos that backed us up. Is Ron Adams here? Is Ron? I know Ron's at the event, but I didn't know if he was sitting here in the crowd. Anyway.
He's caving right now.
Oh, is he? Okay.
He and Danny
Oh, okay. Well, SIG was the first. They were the first ones to give us a grant to help pay the mortgage, and so I didn't know. I didn't have a plan, so I just went up there with a key, and so they gave me $600, and I said, "Well, you're now an institutional member. Here's a key. Anybody in the grotto can use it." So when people say, "Well, how did you come up with the $600 cost for a grotto?" I said, "That's what they had." So I took it. So all these other grottos have keys. So if you're in this grotto, ask somebody who's got the key. Come to Kentucky. Go cave over there. Fill out the forms, please. It will make you better. You know, your liability will be reduced if you sign the waivers. But yeah, all these organizations have keys. Tim Miller is in charge back there. So if you want to buy a key for your organization, again, I'm never going to quit being a snake oil salesman. The LiDAR thing got me in front of so many non-caving groups that I could ask for money, and about half gave it to us. I mean, it was just, again, it was just something that showed people why we were doing what we were doing. So anyway, next slide, Jeannie. So the guy that came up with burn yourself on fire, he also said do all the good you can in all the ways you can, to all the souls you can, in every place you can, at all the times you can, with all the zeal you can, for as long as ever you can. And so I wanted to say that he just wasn't always negative. And so, and this shouldn't end that way either. This was just a great experience for me to be here, and just, you know, a great experience to have gotten to do this project. So anyway, on to the next one. So of course, we're going to end on Seuss. Oh, the places you'll go, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. And this time we went in a cave. So this is open to Q&A. If you've got any questions, I'll be glad to field them the best way I can.
You said you're a sinkhole salesman?
Snake oil, yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you said sinkhole.
No. I'm buying sinkholes. Yeah. No. Yes, sir.
Yeah, those faults that bound the cave area, are those part of the new Mad Grid system?
No. I think it's called the Rough River Fault System. Yeah, they're a localized fault system. But there's you can see a ton of fracture zones. Yes, sir.
Similar to LiDAR, you can make point scales with drones now. Have you ever explored that?
Well, our drone experiences in the cave have been, they were at the beginning of drones, and they were fairly catastrophic. I have not got another drone operator to show up. I have seen LiDAR, I've seen the FLIR, and then also, there's a ton of remote sensing stuff that Precision rents with their drones. So you can pretty much get anything with it. But the terrestrial drones on the tripod have a density that gives you that rich look. And the moving LiDAR collectors are fine in places where it's tough to get to, but they don't have that real richness, that dense data set. And you're only going to collect data once. You might as well just try to get the best you can. So I have played with drone and photogrammetry also with the drones, trying to do it with photogrammetry and stuff and it just has been. But that was I was an early adopter with drones, and these people didn't know the limitations of drones either, and we're in a cave, and then things go bad. So anyway, more questions? Anyone else? I'm going to just turn off the laptop and fade off into the wilderness here in a second. Okay, yes. Okay, yes.
Is there a link online to watch that 3D video?
Yes. Caverken is my YouTube channel. So yeah, dig in there. There's a playlist of LiDAR stuff. Yeah, all one word, lowercase. I had 3 cards and I gave them away already. I've got about 100 on my dresser, and the guy that got me the cards says I don't promote myself enough. So, maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. Caverken. So, yeah, one word, and that LiDAR, those LiDAR, and they're longer too. You'll get bored. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
What kind of resolution can you get now?
Well, we don't go the highest resolution. We're probably, it's millions of points per square foot right now. So, but it's not the most dense because you just fill the cards up and the data is just not that much better. The key is to not get the distance between your scans, to overlap so you double coat them. So you're really just getting, you can get a thinner coat but catch it the second time. So, yes? We're at 3 miles of LiDAR right now. Yeah, we've got 3 miles right now of LiDAR. I'm sorry? No, they're just for rental. Yeah, I've got ideas though. Well, the last idea is we had set a camp in the back and we were just going to stay there in the back and then COVID hit and the food rotted before we got it all back out. The batteries went dead. Just everything that happened during COVID, you know the score. But we still have most of the money. So we still got the rental. We're starting over on food. And batteries are much better now. So anything else? Okay, cool. Well, thank you for humoring me. And go to the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. There you go. I know some people might be going to this cave tomorrow, so this is Robert's Hollow. This is what we did with the money we got a chance to buy another cave instead of building the garage, so this is that cave. So on to the next one. So yeah, so that's the cave. During COVID, we made these lamps, Ice Age lamps out of fat, and so we lit the cave with like the cavemen would light it. That was kind of cool. Next one, Jeannie. Just somebody that lives there. Next one. So there's the garage, 12 years ago, and Jeannie, the next picture. And here's the garage now. So, yeah. So 12 years we've gotten that far. But the cave will be paid off in August. The garage will not be done, yeah. So anyway, you can go ahead and shut it off. And anyway, thanks everyone, and I will see you in 12 years. It's been 12 years since I talked. I'll see you in another 12. So.